Hello, welcome to LinkedIn Live with ChIPs. I'm Monica Phillips, and I'm so glad to be here today with Mindy Morton. Welcome, Mindy.
Hello, glad to be here.
So Mindy is a really involved ChIPs member, and she's also on the mock programs committee, which means that she put together hours and hours of work contributing to the materials that we use to lead a mock pitch with a lot of our members, 50 volunteer clients and 14 teams, and she was part of the committee that made that happen. So I've had a lot of great opportunities to work with Mindy, and just extraordinary to have you be part of the ChIPs community. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
And you are also a partner at Procopio, which is a law firm. You're here in the Silicon Valley office, and you practice internet and intellectual property and healthcare litigation, and you help companies resolve trade secret, trademark, copyright, computer fraud, and non-compete agreement litigation. I'm sure a lot more too. What I want to talk about today is you've shared some really fabulous stories with me since I've known you. And I love that you're really focused on mentorship and sponsorship as a way to help women get promoted and advance in the legal industry. Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, so, I was lucky enough when I was starting out as a junior lawyer in New York to have some amazing mentors. I always talk about when I was a first year lawyer and I wrote my very first reply brief, one of the partners spent 45 minutes of his day walking me through why what I wrote was an opposition brief and not a reply brief, and explaining to me the difference. And that was 24 years ago. And I still talk about it. And it was, it really set me kind of on the right path. And it made me realize how important it is to have mentors. When I started out, there weren't very many women as partners in most of the firms I've been at. And so most of my mentors have been men, including that partner. And the partner in San Jose who taught me how to do a first chair jury trial, Jay Fowler. And so I've been really fortunate, and I always really wish that I had mentors and sponsors who looked like me. And so one thing that's just been a driving force for me was to be that mentor and sponsor for women in my firms and women in the legal community. I think it's just so important to know that there's a path for you, and to have some help and guidance along the way.
Something that you just said that's so important is you mentioned that he spent 45 minutes, this first mentor you had. And what I hear is the gift of time. And lawyers in law firms bill by the hour. And so giving someone that gift of time is actually quite a big ask. I mean, time is such a sacred commodity for all of us, right? So what do you do as a mentor, as a sponsor, to give that gift of time? How do you collaborate with other women partners to encourage them to offer that same gift?
We talk in my firm. We have a women equity partner group, and we talk regularly, and we all know how important it is to have that path and to be there for our younger partners and our associates. And so we very willingly give that time. It's something that's really important to us. We all know that law firms, are not yet made of 50% women, especially in leadership, but we'd love to see that day. And the only way that's going to happen is if we each make that effort, and it's worth it. It's valuable. It's important. And it's going to create the law firms that we want to be part of going into the future.
Tell us about some of the things specifically that you've done at Procopio through mentorship and sponsorship to advance women in law.
Sure. So we do have a women's initiative, and as well as mentoring circles. And I have a mentoring circle that is about half women. And I also mentor a number of our other associates informally. One thing that we do as a kind of more formal program is when women are getting to the point where they're up for partnership, the women equity partners, we reach out to them and we meet with them. We help them craft their stories and their description and explanation for why they should be partner. We also, will be a resource and reach out to some of our partners to tell them why these women are amazing and they should be part of the partnership. And that's been really effective over the past few years. We also just, a lot of it is is just keeping in touch and making sure that people are seen and feel like they're part of the firm. We've started some formal programs bringing in junior associates as well, and we make sure that they have mentors. In fact, one program that we started 2 years ago, the Diverse Access Pipeline Program, DAP, is an amazing program that brings in women of color from all over the country to law firms and legal departments all over the country. And we have had 2 interns so far. And one of them will be joining our firm next year as a first-year associate, Phyllis Macharia, and she is one of my mentees. And it's funny because when I talk to her, she's always, thank you so much for taking the time. And I think one thing that mentees don't understand is it's not a one-way street. I get so much out of talking to her and seeing her and being excited about where she's going. And that really energizes me and helps, kind of bring that spark of joy to my day. As much as I love my job, like, some days I'm doing discovery for a good chunk of the day. That is not a spark of joy. But talking to these women and helping them see their path, that is. And that really energizes me to kind of get through the rest of my day.
Yeah, I can see you light up when you talk about her. And I know even, at all ages, when we're able to create that relationship, mentor someone, we get so much more back, so much more. And it's incredible what you're creating. You mentioned that in most of your career, it's always been men who've been mentoring you, and there haven't been a lot of women at the top. We know that what the numbers show us, that it's still, there's a big discrepancy in the number of women partners versus men partners. So who are the men who are part of these mentor circles with you? Shouldn't they also be part of mentoring the women to rise up to the top, especially since they're sitting in the room to make those decisions?
They are. And we have some fabulous male partners who are allies and who are helping pave the way. And one thing that our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee is talking about is rolling out a formal ally program to help train our partners about how they can be the best allies. Because it's not just about women, it's also our diverse attorneys too need that path and need to see that path. And we can't do it alone. Women and diverse attorneys, like we will not solve this problem. We will still be at 20% 25 years from now if we don't involve and educate the rest of our partnership. And they're motivated and they understand that. And I think the pendulum is really shifting.
Can you give us some insights into what it's like to be selected as partner, what that process is like?
Sure. I mean, it's different from every firm. I've been partners at 2 different firms. At my current firm at Procopio, it's really, we say the only criteria is that 80% of the equity partnership votes for you. Of course, there's informal criteria too, and it's really about, are you a rainmaker? Are you bringing in business? Are you a good attorney? And we assume that everybody who's ready to be promoted to partner has the skills that they need to function, whether it's in the courtroom or in M&A transactions or in labor and employment. But that's critical. But after you're a good, competent attorney, can you bring in work? Because that's what sustains the law firms. That's what pays everybody's salaries, is bringing in new clients and sustaining our current clients.
I have a lot of friends who are general counsel who are part of advocating for women and diverse attorneys to get the business, and that helps them get the promotion. And it's so true. It's that partnership that you can create. So when women get to that point where you're starting to mentor them for partnership, what are some of the key topics that you found? Are there some trends of gaps where you find that you really can offer the most help?
A lot of it is kind of figuring out how to tell your story. Because I mean, if you've made it that far in a law firm, you have an incredibly compelling story. So it's kind of figuring out how to convey that to others. And as a litigator and a trial attorney, I mean, that's what I do. I tell my clients stories so they can be heard. And so a lot of times that's what I bring. And it's also, helping talk to some of the partners that these attorneys may not know that I do know. And saying, hey, I don't know if you know about, so-and-so, she's great. Maybe you should meet with her before our meeting to talk about, the new class of partners. And so you can see, why she'd be such a great addition to our partnership. And I will say, the last few classes of partners that we've had, these women are already so accomplished and amazing. They don't need that much help. So it's a lot of times it's just like, yeah, you can do this. You've got it. And just kind of being a cheerleader too.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It's so much about making the ask, isn't it?
Yes.
Making sure that the people in the firm know all of the great gifts that you have to offer, know who you are. You can't do really great work and sit in your office and not have anyone know about it. You have to make sure they know about it. And it doesn't always feel good to be the one doing that for yourself. You kind of need someone else to say, like, I'm sure there are some really great women coming up for partner in the firm, and you get to be the one to say, wow, did you see what this person did? Look at her great work here. Being that advocate.
Absolutely. And that's not limited to people who are up for partner. It's also, my colleagues. It's always easier to talk about your friends and colleagues than it is about yourself. But in some respect, that ability to talk about yourself and to make that ask, that's critical to be a rainmaker too. One thing, a lot of women have a hard time asking other women who are their friends for work. And I understand that. I mean, I am probably one of the most extroverted people I know. But when I first started bringing in my own business, I was extremely nervous when I started asking my friends who were in-house if they would send me work. And it took a long time to kind of figure out why, and how, again, it's like a mentorship. There's value on both sides. They know me. They know that I'm going to do a good job. And so I'm not just asking for a favor. I'm actually trying to help them too. And if you look at it from that lens, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, it's so true. So what's one of the things that you did to help get over that hurdle of being afraid of asking your friends for work?
Practicing. I remember the very first time I asked a friend, she was an attorney at Intuit who's a member of ChIPs, Intel, who's a member at ChIPs. And I had a suit coat on because, we always used to wear those back in the day. And I left that lunch and I was just sweating, dripping with sweat. And I said, hey, would you think about sending me work? I think I could help you in this area. And she just looked at me and said, of course. And I was so taken aback that was where I was. And I said, okay. And so the more I did it and the more comfortable I got, the easier it is. But it's not going to be easy the first time. I guarantee you that. But the more you practice, the better you will become at doing it.
I wanted to give a shout out to some of the comments here from Sheila Grella. I hope I'm saying her name right. She said she was mentored by a fabulous trial attorney who was great because she answered questions and shared her thoughts continually. The number one rule for a mentee is to respect the time of your mentor. And number two is truly consider what your mentor is saying to you. And she also said that you have been really helpful to so many in the legal industry, including that you spoke to the San Diego Paralegal Association. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Sheila, has an online virtual meeting once a month with the San Diego Paralegal Association. She actually asked me early this year if I would come and talk about mentoring and kind of, what does it mean to be a mentor and what are some good tips if you're a mentee? Because a lot of people aren't really sure how that relationship is going to work. They don't teach that in law school.
What do you wish they taught in law school that they don't?
Networking. Because I will say, again, as an extrovert, even when I walk into a ballroom full of people I don't know, I kind of take that, okay, and take a deep breath and kind of look around for at least one familiar face first. And they really don't kind of talk about how it is to get clients, how to keep clients. Honestly, a lot of law schools still don't talk about balance sheets and how to read them. And we all say that a lot of lawyers don't do math, and it's a great joke, but even as a litigator, financials are still really important. They can make or break the damages part of the case. So, a lot of the practical issues, I think, it's great that law schools teach lawyers how to think like a lawyer, but they also need to learn those critical skills. And then you have that advantage when you're an associate and you can hit the ground running and really be ready to do those other activities that are necessary. Because one thing we do know, and this is something that it seems to affect women more so than others, is women often think that they just need to keep being better and better at their actual job, the legal aspect of their job. But at a certain point, that doesn't help you. As you get promoted and as you get more senior, there's so much more management and mentoring and sponsoring and rainmaking that comes into your job. And if you just have your head down and are trying to be the best lawyer with legal skills you can be, you're not going to get promoted. You need to have those extra skills. And again, those things like management, that's not taught in law school.
I love that you're saying so much about the human skills. That's my personal favorite, obviously. And And I think that it is something that law firms can teach as well, right? And also maybe even starting that in law school. I meet with a lot of younger associates right out of law school, and starting with LinkedIn. Everyone could have 500 contacts on LinkedIn, and that's usually the benchmark I set, because that's the number on LinkedIn where then it's just 500 plus, right? And then you it's like you're verified in some ways. And a lot of people say like, oh, I don't know anyone. Like, you just graduated from law school. You absolutely know at least 500 people. And you know what? Someday those people will be colleagues, clients, friends, advocates across the table from you, right? Keep them in your network. Stay in touch with where they are, what they're doing, how they're developing their careers. And I've heard you say a lot about confidence, having that confidence. What do you do to practice building your confidence?
You know, the phrase "fake it until you make it," it sounds kind of silly and trite, but it's actually true. I mean, when you walk into a room or a courtroom or a negotiation, and you don't feel confident, take a deep breath, go in the bathroom, take a deep breath, like, do the Superwoman pose, and just psych yourself up. And nobody's going to know what you're thinking inside your head. And if you can just, if you're the one who's there, if the law firm or your legal department has sent you to do that, they have faith in you. They believe that you can do this. So you need to believe it too.
So true. And I love this idea, since we're talking about mentoring and sponsoring and advocating, have a friend, right? Who's going to be the one to send you the text like, you're amazing, you got this, something, right? Because it always feels good to get those little notes, those little reminders. Be like, yeah, you know what? That was good. I'm all right.
Absolutely. I mean, even today, I love it that I have colleagues who, when they know I have a trial or a big hearing, they say, hey, how did it go? I bet you did great. And just like knowing that other people have faith in you and believe in you, that helps you believe in yourself, until you actually really do get past any imposter syndrome you have.
Yeah. So how has mentorship played a role in your career as you've evolved? Tell us more about that.
As a mentee, I wouldn't be where I am today without wonderful mentors. Like I said, I remember Thorne, sat me down as a first year. Jay Fowler taught me how to be a first year attorney. My very first jury trial, I was the first chair trial attorney, and Jay walked me through that. He was unselfish. He was giving of his time. He was there whispering in my ear when I needed it and letting me do it when I didn't. And it's people who care enough and see the importance of the future of the legal community that make that happen. And as a mentor, again, some days, it's not so fun being a lawyer, right? We all have those days when opposing counsel is yelling at us or we're doing all discovery, and thinking about the people that you're mentoring and talking to them and getting that joy and passion back. It's critical for a long-term career so you don't get burned out. And it's also critical for the future of the legal industry.
I would say, knowing what I know about you, that you are happier and you feel good in your practice because of the mentoring relationships you've created.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then it makes it more fun to come to work.
It does. And I can't wait to see, I was talking earlier about Phyllis, who's going to be a new first year next fall. And I cannot wait to see what she does with her life and her career. I know she's going to be fabulous, and I don't know all of the things she's going to do, but I told her she's never going to get rid of me because I'm going to be following her and mentoring her forever. And I really do feel that way about my mentees. I always want them to succeed. And sometimes that's in law firms, and sometimes that's elsewhere, maybe going in-house. And, everybody has a different path, and I just want to help them find the one that fits their life.
I love that. So you've done a lot of really great work creating this program at Procopio. What are your ideas or advice for people who are listening who maybe in law firms want to create something similar, maybe don't have such a formal program or don't know how to do it, or just feel kind of stuck around, maybe someone wants to ask for a mentor or wants to start mentoring or wants their firm to be more process oriented in this opportunity to advocate for women and underrepresented minorities to be elevated to partner? What are your ideas?
So, if you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, that's a great place to start. And actually a lot of the folks that are on that committee, they're already really invested in inclusion and might be good choices for you to have a mentor. Another thing to think about is we often think about people who we're working with every day and seeing if they'll mentor us. And there's definitely mentoring that goes on when you're teaching young associates how to be better attorneys. But I've always found that reaching outside of my practice area can be really useful, because then that person is thinking more, maybe more in lines of a sponsor, or at least a mentor, about kind of the softer skills, the people skills. And they can be really valuable and a source of kind of, hey, can I bounce this off of you? You know, there are very few people. I think I've only asked one person who said no if they would be my mentor. And I don't think, for the most part, I've ever said no to somebody who asked if I could talk to them at least for a few minutes about, you know, how they can advance their career. You know, we all do live by the clock in law firms, but it's an important part of our jobs. So that's one thing, is to be, you know, just ask, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't. And the other thing is, you know, there's programs that if law firms aren't involved, like one thing that our firm is involved with is the Mansfield Rule Project. And that really, we've been doing that for 3 years now. And what it does is it measures the number of diverse attorneys who are considered for leadership roles. And then, you know, it also measures those who achieve leadership roles. And that act of measuring makes a big difference, because you can see in black and white what you're achieving. And it's something you can present really easily to the partnership to get their buy-in, because they can see, hey, we did better in this category. We didn't do as well this year. What can we do to improve that? And I've seen in my own firm that our partners have really bought into this project.
I'm really glad you gave a shout out to the Mansfield Rule and Diversity Lab. We love the work that they're doing, and ChIPs has a partnership with Diversity Lab for the honor roll. And it's just really great to see that law firms are doing the hard things to help make that difference. What is important about advancing women in tech law and policy? Why does all this matter?
Well, I mean, on a kind of a meta level, it matters because the business world is getting more and more diverse every day. And if law firms and legal departments don't look like the world, we're doing them a disservice, and we're not going to be giving good client service. I mean, there are so many studies that show that diverse teams have better results. And I don't just mean diverse teams from, you know, gender and underrepresented classes. I mean, older attorneys, first generation attorneys, veterans, you know, everybody who comes from a different background has a different perspective on the problem. And when you have that diversity of perspectives, you solve problems better, and we do better work for our clients. So it's important there. It's also important, honestly, because, you know, I have an almost 6-year-old who started kindergarten yesterday, and I want her, whether it's in the legal world or whatever industry she goes to have a path and to see women in places like that, because that's how we really make change, is to see a clear path and to have women and diverse attorneys in leadership.
Yeah, spot on. And congratulations to your daughter for starting kindergarten. Very exciting moment.
It was more tears on my side than hers, so I think it was good.
Fabulous. What is your favorite part of the work that you do?
I mean, you know, I'm always passionate about advancing women, and always have been. But also I love my clients, and I love getting to know them. And you know, I always say I want to be their best friend, because I want to know about their business, and I want to tell them the truth, and not what they want to hear. And sometimes what I tell them isn't what they want to hear. But the actual, you know, these are your options, and this is your best option. And I want them to trust my advice. And when I get that relationship, it's so rewarding. I have one client who, I think it's been almost 15 years that I've been working with them, and I love working with them. I know their business, and you know, I've built up this trust with them that they trust my advice, and it's so rewarding.
How did you discover ChIPs?
So I always describe myself as kind of a community builder, and I kind of gather often groups of women, but not always, to get together and see what we can do together to make change. And when I came to Procopio, you know, I was looking around to kind of see, you know, what other organizations, and I heard about ChIPs, and I went to the Global Summit. This must have been in probably 2014. And I walked into the ballroom in Washington, D.C., and saw 400 other women lawyers. And I don't think I'd ever seen that many women lawyers gathered in one place. And I was just awed and inspired. And so then I have this habit of, you know, once I belong with an organization, I also get very involved with it. And so I joined, working on the Next Gen project and the mock argument and mock pitch project. And that has been so rewarding to kind of see these junior attorneys really blossom, starting at kind of, I don't know what to do to pitch to these, great in-house counsel, to really putting together a compelling, story and reason to hire them. And it's so fun to watch.
I love that you shared that. I have heard that story from several members of ChIPs, actually. That's just the power of walking in to a room with, 400 or 600 women, largely intellectual property focused, tech focused, policy focused, and it's spectacular.
In our normal day-to-day life, when I go into a courtroom, I'm often the only woman, or maybe there's one other woman. So just to know that there's this community of women that I can draw upon and that I'm a member of is so incredible.
Yeah. And that's a big part of mentoring too, right? Is just feeling that you're not alone and that you belong, and there are people who've got your back and want to see you succeed.
Absolutely. And that's why, one of the things we talk a lot in the diversity, equity, and inclusion realm is that's not enough. We have to make sure that our attorneys feel like they belong in the law firm and they're included. And those are really critical, because just having a diverse, employee list it doesn't get you there. You have to make that extra effort and make sure they feel like they belong. And that's one thing that ChIPs does so well. And it's one thing that law firms really need to model more, is how to create that sense of belonging.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Mindy?
No, I'm so grateful to, to have the chance to chat. And, I guess for anybody who's either thinking of being a mentor or needs one, reach out to someone and ask. And if you have the ability to be a mentor, reach out and find someone that could use the help, because it's a two-way street. It's so rewarding. You will never regret that time.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us here. Next week, we'll have Rolani Ballou to talk about opportunities for women in the legal industry and how she started her own firm. The ChIPs Next Gen Summit is October 26th. Registration is open. Our global summit is October 27th and 28th, all being held at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. And I look forward to seeing all of you here and reaching out and being part of ChIPs and joining the community. And thank you again, and appreciate you, Mindy.
Thanks.